Well, we have another big game this week, and it's kind of nice to be in the situation that weekly they become bigger games as you go along. It was very nice last week that we won the game and continued our steps toward playing in a conference championship game, but getting bowl eligible is a pretty special deal for our team and our program. But now we got to look forward to the next game because we have to win another game in order to get in the conference championship game, and our number one goal in the program is to win the conference championship. So that means every game gets bigger. It doesn't matter who you're playing. It's about us trying to play well enough to win and get into the conference championship game.
Rocky, why do conference championships mean more to you than even bowl appearances or other things that could come toward the program?
I think their number one goal is always to be the best in whatever league you're in. Individuals want to be the best at whatever event they're in track. Everybody else, everybody wants to be the best or considered the best in whatever situation you're in. And in football, winning the league championship is the best you can be. I mean, you can get in the Final Four and win a national championship. Someday that'll be 8, and someday that'll be 16 teams. And when we start talking about 8 or 16 teams, then you can start talking about maybe us. But when you're talking about 4, there's no chance.
And in that regard, is a bowl game a bonus on the season?
A bowl game?
Yeah, going to a bowl game right now, is that just considered you look at that as a bonus on the season when really the conference title is the most important thing?
Well, I think it's a sign of success. Whenever you get picked to go to a bowl game, it's a sign of success. And being that this is going to be San Diego State's 6th bowl game, means that the program is pretty solid and very competitive. But winning a conference championship would mean more than that, yep.
Well, that said, Rocky, what's your opponent present for you?
Well, that's the thing. Everybody that we play, no matter what their record is, now you guys that have been here every week, I'm going to tell you again, and it's still the truth. Everybody we played so far in our conference, the talent level is very, very equal. If you play well and get on a momentum swing, you have a chance to win. UNLV's been playing pretty well, especially on offense. They've been moving the ball well. They've been scoring a lot of points. They have a couple, 3 outstanding receivers. They're probably going to have to play their backup quarterback who threatens you as much running the ball as he does throwing the ball. They are talented enough to beat us for sure. And it's going to be the team that plays the best that's going to win. And that's the way it's in our league. That's the way I don't see one team in our league that is more talented, significantly more talented than any other team in our league. So it's all about who executes and who plays the best.
Were you stunned when New Mexico won on the blue turf?
I wasn't stunned, no. I mean, people can beat Boise, even though Boise doesn't think they can be beat.
Would you like to face Boise in the conference championship game?
I'd like to face anybody that's there as long as we're one of them.
Rocky, you mentioned the team you're facing has got a pretty good offense. Your defense has really come along, and as the defensive coordinator, you have to be pretty proud of that group, right?
I'm proud of the way they've been playing. I think that we've gotten better as the season's gone along. Obviously, our players understand our scheme. We don't change it much from game to game. We adjust it during the game as we go, but they understand what their assignments are, and then they've been executing the scheme very well, so we've had some success.
What surprised you the most defensively in terms of the greatest progress?
I think the ability this year, because every year changes, the ability this year that we're causing turnovers. We didn't have the ability, or we weren't lucky enough last year to cause that number of turnovers. This year we're getting a lot of turnovers on defense. That changes momentums in games and actually gives our offense good field position a lot of the time. I don't know exactly what our turnover ratio is, but it's one of the better ones. It's might be the best one in our conference. I'd have to look, but it's one of the better ones in the country too. Mike helped me out. We got 16 interceptions. I don't know how many we had last year, but we went for about 6 or 7 games without an interception, and this year I think we have 16, right? 16. So the ability of our defense to cause turnovers this year has been exceptional as compared to what it was last year.
And what are the factors in that, Rocky? What do you think, other than some fortunate plays, what do you think the difference is?
It's interesting. I mean, we talked about, you and I have talked about this before. Last year, we really struggled in red zone defense. We're not doing anything different in the red zone than we did last year, and this year we're playing pretty good red zone defense. All the way since training camp started, we do the exact same drills on causing turnovers, and we practice it exactly the same way, and we practice exactly the same way as we did last year. And this year we're causing turnovers, and last year we didn't. The players are, I mean, we have a couple new players, but the players are pretty much the same players. I don't know why it works that way, but some years you get lucky that way, and some years you don't get lucky that way. Now, you get luckier when the players understand the scheme and play at a very fast, high level. And our defense has been playing for the last 4 or 5 weeks at a very fast, high level. And if you play fast and you're playing and you don't make mental errors, good things usually happen for you.
I think of even last week, Malik's interception where he really jumped on that route, it seemed like. Are there plays you're seeing like that, and is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's a good example. I mean, but that's experience. Now that might be one of the reasons we have more interceptions. Every one of those guys is back, right?
Yeah.
And the safeties were pretty new last year. That's recognizing, that's experience. That was him recognizing where he was on the field, which was in the red zone, which means there's really difficult to throw a deep pass. So when you're out in the middle of the field, you cannot jump that route because you might give up a big one. You have to come make the tackle. But in the red zone, you can jump the route because there's nowhere for that receiver to go except out of the back of the end zone. And that's an experience factor, yeah. I mean, that's an experienced player as opposed to one that's out there for the first time.
And as much as we've recognized the play of the corners, you know, with Monte having a great year, how well have the safeties played?
The safeties are playing well. I don't think we ever give our corners enough credit because we put a lot of pressure on our corners that allow us to do other things with the other 9 guys that most people don't do. I mean, we put our corners in a lot of straight man-to-man coverage, and that's a hard thing to do, but it allows the other 9 guys to do some things that most people don't do. We blitz more safeties than anybody else. We cover people with defensive linemen more than anybody else. But that's all based on our corners being able to match up, and not that they don't get beat once in a while, but they don't get crushed out there. If they got crushed out there, we'd be giving a lot more points up than we do.
So it is an interesting matchup this week, right? Because Boyd's really good. Kid Keys from Hilo.
Kendall Keys is really good too, yeah.
3 touchdowns.
Yeah, this is the best combo of receivers we've played against since University of California, since Cal. They've got 2 outstanding wide receivers out there that will be matched up against our corners about 90% of the time. Yep. And we've played some teams with 1 good wide receiver, but we haven't played a team that's had, since Cal, that's had 2 really good wideouts out there.
About Colorado State.
Well, they have 1 great wideout. The other ones were okay.
Rocky, does it take a special football player intellect to be able to play your defense in addition to having athleticism?
I don't think it takes a special guy. It takes a guy that's willing to work mentally as well as physically. I think our defense is as complicated as any college defense in the country. It's not as complicated what they do as what they do in the NFL. Don't get me wrong now. What they do in the NFL gets much more complicated than what we do. But for a college defense, we're very, very complicated. And that takes players that are willing to put the time and effort in to learn assignments and adjustments as well as being physically able to do it. That's why the more experience they get, the better we get.
I mean, even you have to be impressed giving up 297 yards per game defensively when the rest of the world's averaging 450 yards offense.
I'm never impressed with those kind of statistics. I'm really not. Points for and points against, I'm impressed with that. The yardage scenario is you could get it against a quarterback that gets hot one day and give up 400 or 500 yards passing tomorrow. But keeping them out of the end zone is the most important. And what happens in this deal is if you have really good statistics on one side of the ball and not the other side of the ball is not getting the credit they deserve. There's a reason that we're only giving up 290-something yards on defense. We're playing pretty good on defense, and guess what? The other guys don't have the ball very much because our offense is running the clock and getting first downs. And even when we don't score, their offense isn't out there, and our time of possession is pretty good. So the statistic that maybe the defense gets credit for is just as much credit to the offense. And vice versa. If our offense doesn't turn the ball over close to our goal line, guess what? We give up fewer points on defense. If they have to drive the ball every time, we give up fewer points on defense. So now you're talking about the turnovers. If we don't turn the ball over, guess what? It's easier to play defense.
Is Maxwell Smith managing the game much better than he did early?
Oh, much better. I mean, I think he gets better every week. In fact, he's got that streak going with his interceptions, which I wouldn't talk about except someone asked him last week, so I guess it's okay. It's not superstitious. But maybe he's getting lucky because he threw one in coverage the other night that should have been intercepted, and it wasn't, so maybe someone's looking after us.
When you say he's getting better every week, Rocky, what are the tangible parts of that? What do you see?
He's more accurate on intermediate throws. He's maintaining drives by making plays himself. Some of that is blocking schemes and chicken running plays. I think he just carries himself with a lot more confidence. He just looks more confident. There's no way I can prove this, but when you have a confident quarterback out there, the whole team's better. The whole offense is better. You know, just him being confident makes everybody else better.
You kind of got
Describe Maxwell Smith as a Maxwell Smart.
I don't know. Are you trying to give him a compliment or not? I mean, yeah, he might not know who Maxwell Smart is, and I do.
You need to come up with a shoe phone line somehow.
Yes.
Rocky, you're in your 16th year as a head coach, and the opposing coach is in his first year as head coach. So how does that serve to San Diego State's advantage in winning this football game?
It probably doesn't. It probably is a disadvantage. And he has been a head coach before. I don't buy the factor that just because he hadn't been a head coach in college before doesn't mean he's not good at it. I think high school coaches are amazing. All the things they have to do and handle and still put a product out there on the field that looks like his high school teams did. His high school teams were amazing. He knows what he's doing. He's got a head coaching experience. He's probably much better at understanding them than I am because he's closer to that age group. Plus, he's been around them a lot longer than I have. His inexperience is just he hadn't been there for very long. I mean, I think there's a lot of college coaches that could be NFL coaches too if given them the chance. I don't think it's that much different.
Rocky, you've been part of turnaround programs, and Vegas has been down, Wyoming's down. You saw what Oregon State became. I think you were part of that. How hard is it to fix a downtrodden Division I program? How do you do it? Bob Davies doing it too.
I want to thank you for asking that question because I think it's got to be someone that has a plan and is given time to execute the plan. I think people are so impatient now. There's a lot of guys out there that can turn programs around, but they're not given the opportunity to. I mean, the coach at Wyoming right now who's struggling, is one of the best football coaches that's ever coached college football. But if they don't give him 5 years or 6 years to do it, he won't get it done either. I wish I knew his stats, but I think he won 3 straight national championships and lost a total of 2 games in 4 years or something. But now all of a sudden he can't coach. I mean, and people up there I'm sure are upset because they're not playing very good and their record's bad. And because now when they hire new coaches, they expect you to fix it in a day. And you don't fix programs in a day. It takes you 6 years, 7 years to fix a program. That's my belief anyway.
What about the NFL and Mike McCoy and the Chargers? Has he been given enough time?
I don't know the NFL well enough to comment. I really don't. I think it has to do with getting players. That's why it takes so long in college. You have to recruit players that fit your personality and fit your schemes. And guess what? They're not any good as freshmen. They're not. You might have one special kid that can play as a freshman, but the rest of them, you put them out there, it's unfair to them. So you got to wait till they get to be 3rd and 4th year guys before you can actually see if they can play or not. And I would say the NFL is much better off with veteran players too. And I don't know the Chargers roster at all, so I can't comment on that. And they can get good players in a year. And it takes us 4 years to have a good player out there. Or let's say it takes us 3 years to have a good player out there.
At this level, at the Mountain West level, how do you convince players to come play for somebody that's 1-9 as you try to turn it?
I think all of us that are non-Power 5 teams have the exact same problem. It's all about evaluation. There's a lot of good kids out there that maybe haven't reached their potential size-wise or strength-wise or speed-wise, and you have to be good enough to evaluate the ones that aren't going to get recruited by the Power 5 teams. Everybody in this room, I can give you the top 10 college prospects in the country, and everybody in this room can watch them on tape and pick them out. I'll just tell you he's an offensive lineman, and you'll pick out which one it is. Everybody in this room can do that. But finding the guy that you find that can become just like that guy, but is not like that guy now, that's hard to do. And because the resource difference is so big between the Power 5 and the non-Power 5s, and the facilities are so much different and all the things, the kids you can pick out, everybody in this room can pick out, are going to go to the Power 5 teams. That's just the way it is. So your chance is to evaluate the kids that are going to be like that 3 or 4 years from now. And the guys that can do that, they're going to win, and the guys that can't do that are going to get fired.
When you see what Coach Fisher's done across the hallway with JUCO transfers and D1 bounce backs, is that impossible to do at the football level in D1?
It's impossible to do it at the level that he's done it at, if that makes sense. We have 22 guys playing. He has 5. So one great transfer can completely change a basketball team. Completely change a basketball team. In football, one great quarterback could change it a little bit, but nothing like a great basketball player can change a basketball team. If you're going to do it with transfers, you better have 8 or 10 of them that are really, really good, and then they could change a program. But it's hard to get 8 or 10 transfers that want to transfer, because usually they're transferring because they're not playing. There's a reason they're not playing.
Seems like we used to hear of a coach getting hired, he got 5 years. Now it's maybe 2 to 3. What's that mostly a reflection of society, or is it because of the scrutiny, because of TV? Where does that come from?
Now, these are all my personal opinions. Now, I have no facts to back them up, so don't. My personal opinion is it's about making money. In order to finance athletic departments at the Division I college level, there must be funds coming in from the revenue-producing sports. If you don't win or don't win pretty quickly, people don't buy tickets, you're not on TV. And the quickest way to change people buying tickets or change an attitude or maybe get TV to watch, to put your games on, is to get a brand-new, shiny coach that is going to fix everything. That's just my personal opinion. That's why old guys like me love still being coaching, because we did not come up in that era. That's why we run a prehistoric offense.
Anything else for Coach?
Just injury updates. Rocky Feely expected to play.
Feely will play, and I think Randy Ricks will play. Randy Ricks practiced yesterday. We'll give him more reps today, and as long as his foot's okay, he'll play. I don't think we'll miss anybody that played in last week's game either. I mean, we got a couple guys beat up, but everybody else does too.
Rocky, back to you made a point earlier about
Uh-oh.
this program becoming pretty solid and pretty competitive. During your time here, what do you see that's changed most about the way this program operates now?
I can't compare it to how it operated before.
Well, I mean,
I can only talk about how we operated it.
right. So,
So I don't know how to compare. I don't know I don't know what's changed. I promise you we have better players, because you don't win without better players. But that's a product of recruiting and evaluating. But I have no idea how the program was run before I got here. So I can't judge it or compare it.
how do you think it's grown since you've been here?
I think we're evaluating players good enough that they come in and develop into pretty good football players. It gives us a chance to be competitive. And more important than that, every kid in our program now believes in how we do things. Either that or they leave.
How much do you think this record already this year, Rocky, will help you in recruiting, or do you have to win the conference championship?
Well, I mean, we're getting a lot better response right now,
Are you?
but that could go away really quickly. If things don't keep going the same way, that advantage we have right now could be a disadvantage at the end.
Do you think a conference championship resonates with recruits, or is it more they're looking at being on TV and all that stuff?
No, I think success is the biggest factor in recruiting. Now, we're not talking about Power 5 versus non-Power 5. We're talking about equal. When you're working under an equal recruiting basis, kids always want to go to where you win. They always want to go to where you win. Now, we're not talking about the ones with the big resources and the Taj Mahal locker rooms and all that. We're not talking about that. Even no matter how much you win, it's hard to beat those guys in recruiting just because of what those kids see.
So when you're getting the positive responses you say you're getting right now, how's that reflected? They return your texts, or how do you measure?
Well, the first way I could tell was the other night, Saturday night. I don't know if you guys look. If you're there, if you look, did you see the number of potential recruits coming down the stairs into because they get to stand on the field during warmups, and then they have to go back up in the stands?
Yeah, it looked like almost twice as many.
It's probably 3 times as many as we've ever had before. I mean, there was over 1,000 people down there counting parents and brothers and sisters and all that stuff. I mean, my first couple years here, if we had 15 guys down there, we were pretty happy. And now we probably had over 100 potential recruits at the game.
That's good for a head coach, right?
Well, it makes it better because you have more to choose from.
Are you personally feeling a little more buzz about this program as you go around town? I mean, people talking about it more, talking to you about it more, maybe asking you for some more tickets and things like that?
I don't get around town too much. I stay kind of close to my neighborhood, and in my neighborhood, you know where I live. In my neighborhood, they don't care, and they don't even know who I am. So other than maybe asking for $1 or $2, they don't bother me.
Anything else for Coach?
Coach, what's different between, you've been coaching for 16 years. What's the difference? Is there any difference between this team and other programs you've coached in the past?
Yeah, I think there's differences. I think every team has its own personality. And year to year, a team has a different personality, even in your own program. And it's usually developed by the better players. The better players on your team kind of determine the personality of your football team. This football team has a lot of energy. They even go to practice with some excitement. It kind of bugs me sometimes because they don't act like they're concentrating. You guys might notice this. I want you to notice this because for an old coach, it really bothers me sometimes, but I'm getting more used to it. Have you noticed how players dance on the field now? And I don't mean dancing because they made a good play. I mean in the 4 hour of commercials that we have in TV games, and they play music while the commercial's on. Have you noticed what players do on the field? I mean, I'm getting used to it, but it still kind of bugs me. And we have more of those guys on this team than we've had in the past. They really enjoy themselves. You know, I think it's kind of important, and it's a critical part of the game. And we're in a commercial, and they're just having the best time out there. Good for them. I mean, really good for them. They don't have to be nervous like me. That's really good.
Does that make you like Calvin better, though? He said he doesn't have any dance moves.
Yeah, Calvin doesn't dance because he tried it one time and he got ridiculed so bad he won't do it again. You know, some people have rhythm and some don't. Well, he doesn't have any.